We have phones that we send out through our Pearson Foundation that we send out to different schools just to further assess and help the educational front in other countries. Pearson North America is made up of 3 divisions. We have our K through 12 division. So K through 12, Pearson's in about 50% of all educational systems in the U.S. Whether it's curriculums or assessments, Pearson covers about 50% of that in our K through 12. In addition to our K through 12 technologies division, we have our assessments and information division, and that's where you'll find your GMATs and a number of assessments. I think we grade about 101 million essays a year via online applications, as well as our higher educational division, which is everything from 12th grade and beyond. The types of positions and what we're really seeing a big push with, like everyone else had mentioned, is our digital products. So coming out with products on apps, making them available on your phones. We've noticed that everyone uses their phones. The internet, things that are most accessible, I know the cost of books are rising. We recognize that. So one of our goals is trying to make it more affordable and accessible to you guys through multiple avenues. A couple of the positions that we have with Pearson, you're obviously going to have your marketing and your finance. We have a really big push for digital editors, community managers, digital strategists, software engineers, finance, content managers. We look for teachers to actually go in the schools and actually work with professors, find out what content we need to implement into our products and ways to help our teachers teach our professors on how to best use our products. Quality assurance, we have our production facility, so any type of production physicians, we have, what else haven't I mentioned? Mentioned the marketing, analysts and test administrators are a big thing and what we're seeing, what we're hiring right now. In addition to that, I think with right now, education, it's really important right now. We're seeing with the upcoming elections, it's really going to push where our business is going, but what we're doing on the forefront to help us make that digital transition is we're working with our workflow process. So right now in our production process, you have your textbooks come out, and then I'm sure you've noticed there's MyLabs, and then you see an app come out a couple months later. What we're working on right now in our process is creating and stalling the process slightly so that everything can come out at one time. So right now we have our production going in, but with our production, before we even push the books out now, we're going to be putting out our apps so that you have everything at one time as opposed to the delayed process.
Terrific. Let's shift gears a little bit again and talk about the kinds of things, whether it's this position that you're in now or the positions you've had in the past. And we'll start with you, Camille, because you're, as a recruiter with a recruiting background, you're the perfect person to start with. What kinds of things do you look for when people are talking to you about being interested in working at the organization that you're at, whether you're recruiting or it's informal? And I don't necessarily mean hard skills because, you know, that's why you're here, that's what you're getting. What I hear from employers, and not specific to any one program, and College of Professional Studies has programs from landscape design to security and safety leadership and all kinds of weird stuff in between that's really cool. And so I don't get feedback from employers on what should the curriculum have. That's the program director's jobs. But I do get feedback from communication skills and writing skills. And boy, the resumes, here's what I keep seeing with resumes that if I could see something different, that would be good. And boy, I like getting cover letters, but when it looks like it could go to 80 different companies and all they're doing is switching the names out in the first paragraph, I can tell that pretty quick. What kinds of things do you like to see? Or if you're doing informational interviewing and you're talking with people, and you know, sometimes someone's really well prepared and asks you great questions, and sometimes somebody comes and says, so tell me about your company, what you do. I'd love for some advice and some information about that kind of, those kinds of skills and what you're looking for.
Okay. I mean, everything starts with the resume and the cover letter. As much as we hate being criticized and judged, you're judged as soon as we see a resume. So the first thing that I always look for is whether or not a candidate has a cover letter, whether or not it's pertinent to the company, the position. In the cover letter, I'm typically looking for why you want to work for the company, why you think you're a good fit for the company, and that you've actually done some homework and you know a little bit about the company. So knowledge and insight into the company is definitely the second thing that I personally look for. In interviews and in conversations, it's typically the first thing any employer is going to ask you. Why this company? Tell me about the company. And when I have candidates who don't really know about the company or even about the position that they're applying for, it's the first red flag, and it typically disqualifies you as a candidate. But as far as your resume, I mean, we're looking for, like you mentioned, the communication skills. We're looking for leadership experiences, whether it's in your employer, with your current employer, whether it was coming out of school, whether or not you were part of student organizations. That you were able to set yourself apart from your students. I know we're all going towards the digital push, so any type of technical skills is always something that we're looking for. But our ideal candidate with Pearson is someone who's going to be brave, imaginative, and decent. Those are our values, and that's something that we really hold deeply. We're moving to an open floor plan, so collaboration is the biggest thing. So with that, communication skills, how well you're able to present. We have a really big push right now for digital interviews. Have anyone ever done a digital interview yet? Well, come to Pearson, you will have your first one. Lots of digital interviews going on right now, and what that really shows us is A, you're technical savvy or you're not, but B, it gives us the first step to figure out how well you're able to sell yourself and how well you're able to present and speak and to sell and prove a point.
So yes, I don't think I'll talk about resumes because I'm sure you get a lot of advice on that. A couple of things that really crop up in many, many interviews. So when I ask, as I always do you have any questions for me? Please don't try and ask questions about how you did in the interview. Because believe it or not, we've got several positions open at the moment, and there have just been 6 or 7 folks who basically have asked that question in one way or another. And the kind of candidate that really impresses me, these days all the resumes that come in have things like led team to such and such, or analyzed such, all active verbs, and it all looks very tidy. But what I'm really looking for is people who can explain specifically what they did and why it was good. So a candidate I was interviewing recently had in his resume analyzed and developed product portfolio. So I'm like, that sounds pretty good. Tell me what exactly you did. Well, I basically got a whole load of content, and I analyzed and produced a product portfolio. What I was looking for, and the more specific you can get, the better it sounds. So what I was looking for was something like, I went on the web, I devised a list of subjects which I thought were really important for this content area by talking to a few academics. I then put it on a spreadsheet. I did a pivot table and was able then to come up with a statistical way of figuring out what kind of content we should go after. Now, I use that as a specific, but it can apply to pretty much anything. The generalities, the number of times where you ask a question, and what you're looking for is something that shows that you've actually done the work. And it's just not there. So sadly, there are hundreds and hundreds of resumes that come in. Sadly, one's like, well, one of two things is going on here. Either they haven't really done the work, or they're not able to communicate well. And both of those are disqualifiers. I've got time for one more. The other thing which I'd say is I really look for people who are self-assured. We get a lot of people who come in and who are really nervous, and it's really, really tough to be, I can still remember when I was on the other side of the fence, and nerves are inevitably part of it. But the people who actually say, you know what, I'm pretty nervous here, and so let me just be clear with you that I need to get my answer sorted out. That kind of direct communication, rather than trying to fake it out. Because the moment that people start to fake it out, you get into this world where you both know it's not true. You both know that somebody said something that's really silly. You know, we had somebody recently who didn't know the name of the company. And I think it was nerves. It was just purely nerves. But she just kept on trying to pretend she did. The only game that would have worked would have been to say, you know what, I'm kind of nervous here. I forgot the name. I know that's really bad. But to establish the human link, maybe she wouldn't have dug her way out of it anyway, but at least it would have really helped. And the people that do have that self-assurance, because it plays out in the workplace. If you're nervous in the interview, you're going to be nervous when you're with an important client. You're going to be nervous when you're with a senior person in the company. And if you can still make a relationship with those guys, that's half the battle. So